Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the UBC Youth Circle. Today's November 7th. My name is Crystal Morris, the Aboriginal Education Coordinator. Just so everybody knows, we are being recorded. Sorry. I just wanted to make everybody aware that the session is being recorded for future purposes, whether it's Graham or myself, that we can refer people to this, to our site, and if they would like to view the presentation, or for those who may have wanted to join today or wasn't able to because they couldn't access the video conference. If you have any questions on Adobe Connect, if you could type those in, and I will relay the questions to the presenter. So during the presentation, what I do is I also monitor the Adobe Connect, so when there is a question, that I will relay the question to. So are we okay to interrupt the presentation if a question pops up? Okay.
We actually encourage it.
Okay, so very interactive. So do ask the questions. So what I'm going to, sorry, excuse me. What I'm going to do right now is actually turn the table over to Graham, because if you could just do a quick introduction of who's here with you in our beautiful downtown office. And I guess before I do that, I'll recognize the Musqueam territory for which our downtown office resides.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Crystal. I really appreciate this opportunity to meet with you, but also to all the different people who are joining us today, either through video conferencing or the Adobe Connect platform. Yes, my name is Graham Joseph. I'm the Coordinator of Strategic Aboriginal Initiatives. I'm actually Gitxsan from Hazelton, and I belong to the family group of the House of Guksan, which is part of the Fireweed clan. And my traditional name is Ach Desam Ski. And I'm joined today by a number of my esteemed colleagues, which I will turn over to them to introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Nadine. I'm an enrollment services professional, and I am a member of the Tongva Nation, which is from Southern California in the Los Angeles Basin. And I will turn it over to my colleague.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Melody. I'm the Aboriginal Student Recruiter Advisor with UBC. I come from Long Point Winneway First Nation, which is a small Algonquin Nation, Anishinaabe territory in Quebec. And I just want to say chi miigwech for listening in today for some of the tidbits we'd like to share about post-secondary education.
Well, thank you very much. Well, today's all about tracking towards post-secondary. And what we want to do is to help you sort of develop a means by which to make a decision about which school is best for you. So what we'll be doing today is working our way through a presentation. And what we want to do is sort of be a little bit more interactive. So if you do have questions or comments, concerns that you may have as we kind of move through, please do not hesitate to ask questions. This is what it's all about. We want to provide you with some guidance, some information, some direction as to what you can do with a post-secondary education. So, sorry, Crystal, just to move the slides forward, do I just move them on here? So,
yes, you do.
Okay.
Just right. Okay.
Great. Okay. Sorry, we'll move back. Whoops.
Use the up and down arrow. If you want to go back, use the up arrow. If you want to go forward, use the down
Sorry.
arrow.
Seems to be a bit of we're having a technical issue right off the get-go here. You know, I think when we're thinking about, post-secondary, it's a big step, and it's an exciting step. And what a lot of students, when they're thinking about what their choices are going to be, they seem to focus on a couple of different really, I think core issues. And that's going to be around the academic piece. What program they want to go to, what school they want to go to. And what we want to do is sort of provide some sort of, framework for you to sort of ask very specific questions to the school that you're interested in going to, and to ensure that you're making a really good decision for yourself. So there's a number of key areas in which we want to cover, and that's the first one is, what's the student life like? What is it like to be on campus? What different types of opportunities and supports are there for yourself in that particular program, and perhaps as an Aboriginal student? The next piece is, well, now that I've decided, perhaps a place that I want to go is, well, how do I get there? What type of academic plan do I need to create in order to realize that specific goal? And I think the third piece is one that is often perhaps left a little later than it should be is, well, how am I going to pay for it? How am I going to support, how am I going to finance my education? And what we want to do is sort of provide you with some pointers in terms of developing a spending plan, i.e. a budget, and also to identify particular types of resources that are out there to help support you as you go through your education, either that being a certificate, a diploma, or perhaps a full university degree. What we want to do is sort of think about it and sort of longitudinally, meaning from beginning to end. So what we'll do is we'll go through these different areas and end up with some next steps to provide you with some guidance in terms of, okay, now that I have all this information and these little sort of nuggets of detail and info, what do I do? And so we'll give you a little bit of guidance upon that as well. So to start off, what we want to do is talk about the student life. What's it like being a student at a particular campus? And I think the one thing that we always have to sort of keep in mind is that, as an advisor, students always ask me, okay, what's the best program for me? What's the best program out there? And the way that I always answer that question is, okay, well, what's best for you is the most important question. There's lots of great programs, there's lots of great schools, but what we want to do is ensure that we are setting you up for success, both academically as well as personally. So each school, each student, each individual has their own unique needs, and what you need to do is make a decision that meets what you need in order to reach whatever goal that you've set for yourself. So, the best way to sort of talk about it is, each university has its sort of own personality, and you need to sort of match up personalities and make sure that you're in a really good fit. So programs, what's life like inside the classroom? What I'll do is throughout, my portion of the presentation, as well as my colleagues, is that we're going to reference a lot about UBC. We'll talk about what UBC has to offer, but what we want to do here is actually talk about, things that are available to students, all over the province. This just isn't about getting students to come to UBC. This is about getting students to go on to post-secondary. So, being UBC staff members, we'll reference UBC, but this is information that you can sort of transport and take to other areas, and it will basically help you sort of guide your thoughts and how you make this decision. So programs. UBC has literally hundreds of different programs. Now, a university is a bit different. A UBC is a large research-oriented school, and so we have a lot of choice. And there's a lot of ways in which you can approach your education. You can do a Bachelor of Arts, you could do a Bachelor of Science, you could do one in Land and Food Systems, Law, Medicine, Nursing. So there's lots of choices by which you can make. And the manner in which you think about those programs is, think about them in terms of being as flexible as possible. Perhaps you already have a really, strong or a really good idea of what you want to do, where you want to go and see yourself. So the idea of programs is going to be a little bit more different. You're going to perhaps want to go into nursing. So you're going to be kind of thinking about the different schools that are available and the nursing programs that are out there. Perhaps you're a student that wants to go into the Bachelor of Arts program. For myself, when I went on to post-secondary, I really wanted to go into policing. So I thought, okay, well, I'm going to go into criminology, right? So, that's that logical progression from education into a career. But as I went to school, I sort of started taking different types of courses, and I took archaeology. I actually took what they call forensic anthropology, which is sort of that CSI kind of stuff with the bones and all that kind of things. And I just thought it was amazing. And I thought this was, okay, well, if I want to become a police officer, forensic anthropology is going to be a really good choice. But as I started taking those courses, I started getting really interested in Northwest Coast archaeology, being Gitxsan, thinking about what my grandparents had taught me as a child and as a youth. I was able to sort of explore that history and think about it in terms of archaeology. So programs can, and your expectations and your goals can be flexible through time. And when you're thinking about the types of programs that different schools offer, sometimes it's good to think in ways that are flexible. So, can I, change programs, or is this particular area that I'm interested in? Is there other areas that also sort of complement that and can lead me to whatever type of career objective that I've created for myself? At UBC, this is a professor, Candace Gala. This is a picture taken from our UBC magazine. Candace is Hawaiian, and she is one of our Indigenous professors at UBC. I think we have about 26 right now, which is perhaps the largest number in British Columbia, perhaps even Canada. But her whole focus is really around language revitalization. So when you're thinking about what school you're going to be going to, also think about not only the programs, but who's going to be teaching those programs. So for some of you who have interest in, let's say, Aboriginal history, culture, and so forth, this is going to be a really important question for you. Is like, okay, well, who are the professors? At UBC, well over 95% of the professors have PhDs. Meaning that they are literally experts in their area. So a lot of things that you'll be learning within your classroom is going to be like literally cutting edge information, stuff that's not even in textbooks yet. So when you're thinking about either a university or you're thinking about, let's say, a college or a technical institute, perhaps even in the trades, that's certainly something you're going to think about is, okay, well, who's teaching those courses? Have a conversation with perhaps the institution to see, to sort of gain a little bit more understanding about that. One big issue is, okay, life inside the classroom. What does the class size, look like? What does a classroom look like? And, a lot of students are, of course, concerned about big, large classes, and at UBC, yeah, we have those. Students in usually years 1 and 2 can find themselves in these types of large lecture halls. But as you progress through your university degree from years to 1 to 4, those classes get smaller and smaller. So sometimes they can be as small as 14 people in a classroom. Now, class size can be an issue for some students, but UBC, I think, has worked very hard to sort of create very interactive classrooms, even in those large auditorium type setups. So for example, there is this clicker technology. So each student, for example, in one class would get access to a clicker, and as the professor is providing the presentation, the lecture, they would ask the students questions. And so what the students would do is they would get into small teams and then start to work on answering the questions from the professor and then answer as a team or answer individually with this clicker. And what that would do is provide the professor with almost immediate feedback in terms of how the students are doing with the content. Another really important part of this is sort of this interactive component is that you're working together collaboratively with your other classmates in terms of answering these questions. So when you're thinking about the type of school that you're going to is like thinking about class size. If you're a student that perhaps would be best served by going into a very small classroom, that's a really important question to ask. If I'm going into this program, what are the class sizes? Is it a big class size? Is it small? Maybe you're a student that's fine in those larger settings, but it's still a good point to sort of have that conversation because you want to be able to go into a classroom that's going to lead you to success. If it's a big one, great. If it's a small one, awesome. But the other question about the classroom is well, who else is there with me? In the example with the clickers that I just provided, you're also kind of learning from your colleagues, your classmates. So, thinking about the school, its reputation, the other students in the classroom is also, I think, a really important question to ask. So when you're out there and you're thinking about the program, your school you're going to, the life inside the classroom is a big question, as well as the wider community. UBC in itself is perhaps one of the most unique learning communities in Canada. It's a big school. There's literally 50,000 students at UBC. And here I've got an aerial shot of campus, and you can see, from those of you who are from perhaps smaller communities, it's literally a city unto itself. And if you are a student going to a high school in a smaller community, perhaps there's a college or a regional university close by that would meet your needs. But if you're thinking about a large research-sized institution like UBC, this is generally the size you're going to be. But, I think the one thing that students can become overwhelmed with is the size. But, I think just like any other community, there's all kinds of ways to sort of get connected. And I want to talk a little bit more about that as we go along. But one of the advantage of a school like UBC is the facilities. And I got a picture here of the new pharmaceutical sciences building, is that, we have world-class facilities, not only in addition to, First Nations House of Learning, the Museum of Anthropology, all these different types of, faculties and departments have amazing spaces from which you can learn within. And when you are a student going into either the trades or into, another type of program such as, the health sciences, talk about the facilities. Ask them where you're going to be going to school, what type of supports that they have there for you. For those that are interested in sort of the technical side of, let's say welding and so forth, there's going to be a facility, a setting, a classroom, and what you want to ensure is that they have the most current technology that you can learn from in order to help you sort of get into those particular fields where they're going to be expecting that you have experience, handling certain types of equipment. So those are types of I think, really important questions you must ask yourself, but also, any particular school that you're interested in going into. Okay. I'm going to put a big caveat out there right from the get-go. This is not a typical dorm room, okay? This is, I know there's probably a lot of, oh, shucks, man, that's amazing. I wish I could live there. This is a picture taken from our new Ponderosa building at UBC. It's one of the newest residences on campus. It just opened, and this is one of the studio suites that are there. So this would be for a student who's wanting to live in full-time housing all year long. Generally, when students come to the university, they're living in first and second year dorms. Age ranges are from 17 to 19 years old. You're either in a shared or single room, and there is a cafeteria. But I have to say the cafeterias are not the cafeterias that you imagine. Like at Totem, Vanier, they're almost like restaurants. The food is made to order. So when you go in there, you basically order your hamburger or your stir fry, and there's vegetarian options, and there's all these like really great food, and it's done on a point system. So you have what they call a meal plan. You take your meal plan card or your student card, and when you pay for your food, you just swipe it, okay, and you go on and eat. So, I think if you are thinking about moving away from home to go to school, student residences is going to be really, really important. So for, UBC, high school students, and, most importantly for Aboriginal students, we give what we call a housing guarantee, priority assignment placement. Meaning that if you apply to UBC on time, you indicate yes, you want to go to housing, and you're admitted and you accept your offer, we're going to have a place for you to live in, okay?
So is that like at both campuses?
At both campuses.
Okay.
Now, that's what we call for winter session housing for students who are just wanting to live in residences between September and the end of April. We do have year-round housing, which we have displayed here, and we do also have priority placement in those residences as well. But usually there's a long waiting list, particularly those who are, for example, wanting to live in family housing. So we always encourage students to apply very early. So if you're going to go away to school, ask them about residences, what the policies are on residence, and if they also have priority for Aboriginal students. Now, we just don't get priority for year one. We also include that throughout the time that you're at UBC, and if you want us to continue to live in housing. But yeah, I have to say, and our little joke here is like, yeah, it's a very beautiful residence, and almost looks like an IKEA catalog shop there. So, you never know, you may find yourself in a residence like that one day at UBC if you choose to come here, or another one at another school. When we think about a learning community such as UBC or another university, a college, or a technical institute, there's lots of little places to sort to create community. And, there's all different ways of getting connected to campus. And the one area that we highly highly encourage Aboriginal students to get connected with is their Aboriginal Student Services. Almost every post-secondary institute in the province has made Aboriginal student enrollment and graduation a priority, and so there's lots of services in place to help students. And this picture here is of the First Nations House of Learning. It is like the community center for Aboriginal students on campus, and it's a really important place for people to sort of get connected, get involved, and to hang out at. There's different types of things that students can do there. This is a picture of our Jumpstart program. Jumpstart is a orientation program for new students, and what it does is it gets students onto campus a couple of weeks early, and it's done in conjunction with the International Student Jumpstart, and it's just sort of getting students oriented, comfortable with campus, creating a sense of community, helping you sort of understanding, I think, what the academic expectations are, but also what the community is like. Really, really important. I really encourage those students who are going to go on to UBC to take part in Jumpstart, or if you're going to another school, to get involved with that as well. Any type of advantage that you can gain in terms of making you successful at your school of choice, do it. So for example, there's library orientations, there's study skills workshops, there's test writing workshops. Take the advantage of those opportunities so that you can become a really good student. Other things that we do offer at the First Nations House of Learning is, of course, there's a student advisor. There's also counseling services. The student advisor is a really good person to sort of get connected with if you're sort of having some little bit of challenges or you need some direction. They could be somebody who can provide you with some really good advice and some coaching. And the counselors are there. We have counseling services at UBC. Generally, they're up at Brock Hall, but they also maintain office hours down at the Longhouse just to help people with perhaps challenges that they're facing and they need a sounding board to sort of work off of. There's student study space, social space, there's a computer lab, there's a sport and social club. There's just different people around in the Longhouse to sort of help you be successful and to sort of move through your studies. But there's also a wider community of people at UBC here to support you in terms of Aboriginal Student Services. Of course, there's Melody, who's the Aboriginal Student Recruiter Advisor. She would be somebody who would be your first point of contact that can help you through the application process. We also have an admissions advisor who is responsible for Aboriginal applicants. And then there's the enrollment service professionals and Nadine, people that you can go to for support when you need it. And we always encourage students to get connected and to stay connected, because life has a way of sort of throwing curveballs out at you. And if you already have a community of people around you that are there to support and hold you up, it's just easier for when those things come along. So when you are deciding upon which school you want to go to, this is very, very important. What type of services are there out there for all students, but also particularly for Aboriginal students? And make a list. So when you're asking, the recruiter at, SFU or UVic or VIU or perhaps a college, ask them very specific questions about what's out there and make a list so that when you have a chance to kind of go back home and think about it, you can sort of you can compare one school to another. That's all right. The Sport and Social Club is really popular in the Longhouse. They've been the champions in their intramural sports team for a couple of years now. This is from the first year that they did it, and so they're always very proud. And it's a really good way of sort of staying fit, staying balanced, and developing some really good friendships. Now, when we talk about going on to post-secondary, of course, academics. Your program is your primary concern. That is the priority. But what we do know through research is that students who do get connected on campus are more successful. It's not only about getting your credential. Your educational experience, either being at a university or elsewhere, is just not inside the classroom, it's outside. So there's lots of different ways you can get connected in a community such as UBC, a big school such as ours. Athletics, there's of course the Thunderbirds. So if you're thinking about, competitive varsity level sports, we have that at UBC. But there's also intramural recreation, as you just saw with the Longhouse team, and all different kinds of sports, from hockey to volleyball to basketball, from flag football. There's all different kinds of choices. There's also different workshops you can do and classes, from yoga to spin class to martial arts. There's other kinds of ways you can get sort of connected, but also I think really importantly, the word that we're looking for here is to enrich your education. One way is through cooperative education. Cooperative learning is basically you go on co-op, meaning you take either a 4-month, 8-month work term during your studies, and you go out into the real world and work. And what this does is it not only provides you with the academic qualifications to go into a particular area that you're interested in, it also gives you those sort of hard and soft employable skills so that when you go out and you apply, you can put that on your resume. And I think for youth that are going into the job market now, this is very, very important. It's a very competitive time to be going out and to be looking for work. So any type of advantage that you can gain in your university or your college or your post-secondary education, take advantage of it. Because when you do leave the school and you go on, it's something you can speak to when going out and getting a job. Now, we're going to be talking more about the financial piece a little later on, but there is a work-learn program at UBC which allows students to basically get a job on campus. So we have work-learn positions at the Longhouse, but they're like literally right across the university, and you can work up to a maximum of 10 hours per week. And the really great thing at UBC is that work-learn positions are unionized wages. So you're looking $15 plus. So a lot of students, to help sort of offset some of the costs and sort of support themselves as they're going to school, want to work part-time. And so they get jobs off of campus, which are often, minimum wage. But at UBC, you're making $15 plus right off the get-go. So other universities have these types of programs as well. So take a look. Ask them if there's opportunities to work on campus. Now, I think the one really interesting thing is about, in your youth, people always want to go traveling. And generally when I'm in a recruitment presentation, I say, who here wants to go traveling? And everybody puts up their hand. But, when you're thinking about going to a university, and this is just not true of UBC, but perhaps all I'm sure all the universities in BC have this option, is you can go on exchange. So you pay UBC tuition, student fees, housing, and you can go to another country and study at another university. So you don't have to pay international student fees when you're there. So UBC, through our Go Global program, has a lot of different partnerships with universities within, in Canada, United States, South America, and in Europe, as well as New Zealand and Australia. So if you want to go study elsewhere and go traveling at the same time, it's something that's available to you. And so we always encourage students to do that. We, of course, have Aboriginal students who do it. I know of a couple students who have gone to New Zealand to go study, and to go study at a museum that has a very large Maori population. So they get a different perspective on Indigenous students elsewhere. It was a really, really good experience for them. And in fact, one of my cousins actually went to the University of Moscow in Russia, and it was life-changing for him. It was an amazing experience. So something to sort of keep in mind. Other things just to sort of touch on just briefly, we have a really interesting program at UBC called Access and Diversity. So a lot of students who perhaps have lifelong disabilities or challenges, or even temporary ones, like you perhaps broke your arm or your leg, the DRC, or Disability Resource Center on campus, can be a really important support for you. So sometimes students may have perhaps a learning disability, or they have visual or auditory challenges. What they can do is they can help you with perhaps accessing government grants or technology that can help you study at the university. But also, for example, if you have a visual impairment, you can't see the board, they'll actually hire another student to take notes for you in the classroom. So, if you are a student who perhaps has some of these types of challenges, this is going to be a really important question for you as to where you're going to school. Is like, what type of support services does does this school have for me with my particular issues? And so it's going to be an important part of the decision-making process. Another really important way to getting engaged on campus socially is through student clubs. UBC has literally, I think, over 100 students clubs, and we always get a little bit of laugh, a little bit of ha-ha out of this one. There's everything from the Mustache Appreciation Club to, the Quidditch Club, so the students kind of play Quidditch with brooms running around in one of the sports fields, and they're kicking the ball along and they try to score. It's I think, a meld between soccer and Quidditch. But then there's also the Varsity Outdoors Club, where you can go hiking, skiing. There's the Ski and Board Club. I'm actually probably listing all the ones that I would have been interested in. The Mountain Biking Club, but there's academic oriented clubs, social, cultural, ethnic clubs. There's an Indigenous student club as well. So, when you're thinking about the type of school you want to go to, it's really about making sure that the school that you choose is the right fit for you. I've been really, of course, using UBC as the example, but we may not be the right school for everybody. Okay, and that's okay. If it means you want to go to college or go to a technical institute, if you want to go to another university, you go where you're going to be successful. Because at the end of the day, and I'm sure I speak for my colleagues, is that the reason why we're involved in post-secondary education is to empower Aboriginal people so that our people can reach a new potential, and education is a really important part of that. I think we all kind of look at the issues that are involved in our communities, that our communities face, and our youth, through education, not only education in terms of going on to post-secondary, but also education within our traditional culture, our language, our way of looking around the world is our key to success in the years to come. And so, education is empowering not only for the individual, but for the nation, and, from all different kinds of ways, economically, to, socially, to culturally. We all benefit from getting students to go into post-secondary, regardless of what level they want to go to or where they want to go to. So when you're making this decision, make this decision for you. Your school of choice, after thinking about all that I've sort of run through, may not be the same school that your friend or maybe even one of your family members went to. But you got to make a choice that's going to lead you to success, and that is the most critical thing that we can impart upon you. And what we're, of course, doing today is just sort of giving you a number of tools by which to sort of think about that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn it over to my good colleague, Melody, and we're probably going to change chairs here, if that's okay.
Okay, that's okay.
And that'll allow Melody to be able to sort of move through the slides as well. And thank you.
Thank you. Very interesting. I do have some questions.
Oh, okay.
If I could just, that have come up. I have a student who is currently in classes up in the interior, okay. But she is being supported currently by, she's wanting to enter a specific program in UBC. There's an application process, but is there also opportunity for support with her application process and the actual letters for admission that she has to write that goes with her application?
Which program?
Midwifery.
Midwifery. Oh, okay. I think the one thing that we would do is there is an advisor within midwifery that we can sort of direct that student to and get some guidance in terms of how the overall admissions application process works. Okay, so I think it's really important, and Melody will be sort of talking about this in much more detail about really sort of tracking and understanding what the requirements are in terms of what you have to submit, when you have to submit it, and then what you're asking for is, okay, if I have to submit what we call broader based information like personal profiles or letters of recommendation, we're going to talk a little bit about that. And I think it's really sort of important and a very important subject particularly now these days because so many programs, particularly at UBC, and especially in health careers, require this information. So even if you're a student who's in high school, it's good to start thinking about this now in terms of how you're going to prepare it. So great question. I'm going to defer till when we get to that section.
Oh, that's perfect. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Great. Okay, so I'm going to briefly share some of the information about starting to develop your academic plan. And some of the things that I'll shed some light on is differentiating between, a college, university, and a technical institute. So this was a question I had when I was in high school, what's the difference between what is a diploma or what is a ticket or, what is a degree? And basically the underlying message that I received in part of my journey in post-secondary was graduating high school. I decided to go to college first. Typically, most of the programs at the college level are about 2 years in range. And most often you'll receive a diploma upon graduating. And that was a good way for me to kind of get my feet wet and to, start thinking about, okay, maybe I'll be confident now to apply to university. So I attended Georgian College and took the Aboriginal Community Social Development Program. And what that program did for me was definitely build on my confidence and, it helped with some of my high school grades that I didn't, have high grades in, so I was actually ready to step forward and advance my education and decided to apply to Ryerson University for the social work program. And there was a lot of similarities between the programs, so that's something you might want to start to consider is, what college programs are available to me that I could, begin my journey with and see maybe there's some possible transfer opportunities to UBC or other universities here in BC that might have similar programs and might even put you in second or third year. So that's something to definitely consider. And so with university, you typically would come to university for 4 years or plus an additional year if you want to take advantage of the co-op option. And upon graduating there, you would get what's called a bachelor's. So there's different names for different faculties at UBC. So for instance, in the social work program, you may get what's called a Bachelor's of Social Work, also the acronym BSW, or if you want to do the arts, you might get a Bachelor of Arts. So that's the difference between the college diploma and the university degree is that there's just different namings and different lengths of programs. And in terms of the Technical Institute, there's different trades available to you here in BC as well. That would offer, different trades such as plumbing or millwright, or if you want to be an electrician. Typically, again, there's about 4 years, 3 years in length where you would do some in-school training, and then you would sign up to be an apprentice with a company, and then they would hire you basically as a worker, and you would gain credit as well as make some money along the side. So that's just the difference between the colleges, universities, and some of our trade schools here available to you. So another question that you can, start talking with your guidance counselor or your teacher or your parents or your cousins is what's the best program for me? And some of the ways to, start considering is start looking at where your gifts lie. And what I mean by gifts is what are your skills and abilities right now that you are seeing in, your current studies or some of the work experience that you've been doing in your community or some of the volunteer that you've been doing so far. And start, you can start maybe writing down what things I'm good at and what things make me really happy and what's fulfilling for me and what program would best match that. And so that's something that I had asked myself when I was probably grade 10, 11 in that career planning course where I sat down with the teacher and I said, well, I'm really good at planning and I'm really good at, talking with people and I really want to, work in the community. I spend a lot of time in the Friendship Center, so that was kind of where I got my feet wet to start thinking, maybe I want to work in, cultural programming or something and teach regalia making workshops. So things like that where, questions that I would talk with myself with and as well as with my guidance counselor or parents to, see what schools offer the program that would best meet my needs and where my skills lie. So That's probably a good starting point for some people who are kind of in that stage in their life. And another question in terms of the academic plan, this is probably the biggest one that I know you can probably start preparing while you're in high school or if you're currently upgrading, is how do admission requirements work? And so what I mean by that is what courses do you need to take now and what kinds of grades that you're going to need to make yourself eligible for the programs that are offered at the college, university, and the trades. So I'm just going to quickly go through a link here called educationplanner.ca, and I'm just going to go through here. This is a tool typically that you could start to visit and look at, and it can help you search the programs that are available to you. And so this is actually a really useful tool because it can start to match what your interests are with different programs and institutions that are available to you within BC. There's other provinces that have similar search tools like this, so you can broaden your horizons if you like. And basically I'll go through. You can search by program. So for instance, if someone's interested in, let's say, engineering, you can just type this in and click search, and you can see here the search engine brings up different options for you, starting with the college level. There's also certificates, something that I didn't touch on in the beginning. Typically certificates are earned at most colleges and some universities as well, and you would take a bundle of courses as a part-time student, and at the end you would be given the award of a certificate. Again, that's another doorway for you to begin if you're not quite sure as to where your focus or your subject lies at this point. It's a great way to get yourself started as well. And let's say you wanted to check in with the Bachelor's of Applied Science in the engineering degree at the Okanagan campus at UBC. And you can see here when you click on the link, it brings you everything from cost to location, the length of the program, 4 to 5 years, which is kind of cool with the engineering program because you can take an additional year to take the co-op option, and it's typically paid, so why not get credit again and be paid? Not bad to have some extra cash there. The cost of tuition is a key one too, because it's never too early to start planning and saving your funds from some of the part-time or full-time jobs that you've been holding. And breakdown of the cost of the books. This is something that I didn't have available to me in school, and I know I had to learn a little bit the hard way about how to budget in the middle of college when I'm like, oh no, I need some money. But definitely looking into some of our work-study programs to get you some part-time jobs on campus is definitely useful. And you can see here the application deadline. I'll go a little bit more in detail once I hit up those slides there in terms of the application process with UBC. And you can see there the application fee is $62. And again, we can talk about some of the cool things we have in place in terms of some of our fee waivers. So this is just a starting point for some of the students or for yourselves who are looking to kind of start brainstorming what's available to me out there. And I would gladly love to walk you through this more in detail if you wanted to give me a call sometime, and we can definitely go through this together and start the plan. Okay, so I'll go back to the slide here. This one? Yes. Okay. So the next piece I'd like to shed some light on is the UBC's secondary school admission requirements. So this is basically what courses you would need from high school to be eligible for some of their programs at UBC. Most universities have similar requirements as well, but just please do keep in mind that a lot of our programs are competitive as well. So you want to try and get as high as you can in your grades and try and keep up with your homework so that you come in as a strong applicant for the programs there. And so we've got our English requirement, our English 12, or an English 12 First Peoples. We'll take either one or the other. And there's additional 3 other approved grade 12 courses. So in total, we're looking for 4 approved grade 12 courses from your high school. And basically, starting in grade 11, it's probably a good idea to start chatting with your guidance counselor to see which courses in grade 11 where you can start to begin that the different streaming and which streams will lead you to different post-secondary options. And so we'll incorporate some of your grade 11 courses as well, including the English 11, Language 11, Math 11, and an Approved Science 11 course, and an Approved Social Studies courses. So generally the admissions team really likes to incorporate everything that you've done as well. So it's definitely a good idea to get yourself started as soon as grade 9 or 10 even, to see what some of the requirements are out there for yourself. So if you were in the same boat that I was, I struggled in high school. I definitely was probably an average student, but I really had to work hard for some of those 70% that I needed to get to be eligible for university. So I definitely struggled with English, and I was a little restless as a high school student as well. I was always socializing with my friends, and I had to take care of family responsibilities as well, and that was hard to juggle. So my grades reflected some of the work I was doing outside of the school. But thankfully now, UBC's got a really, really strong college transfer culture, meaning that if you don't have some of those grades from high school, it'd probably be a great idea for you to check into a college, typically using the BC Transfer Guide below, which I'll go through that in a moment, and to see what kinds of credits you can gain from the college level first, and then seeing if there's a transfer agreement with some of our full-time programs here at UBC. So, and then what we would typically do is look at your college more if your high school wasn't as strong. So there's definitely always an option for you in the event that your high school isn't as strong as who you are now, and that we really want to incorporate your skills and abilities now, and talk about ways to work with that and to move forward. So at Langara College, we have what's called the UBC's transfer admission, the UBC Aboriginal Transfer Program. And basically, you spend about a year or 2 at Langara. I think that's the next slide. And basically, oops, let's try to go down. Uh-oh. There we go. I was trying to scroll down. Basically, you would spend 1 to 2 years at Langara College in an arts-related program. And I think you receive about 24 credits. And that would basically, and you meet the minimum academic or the CGPA requirement that we're looking for, and that gets you guaranteed admission into UBC's arts program here. So that's something you might want to consider as a pathway to furthering your education. Even other colleges that are around in BC and elsewhere, using that BC Transfer Guide. I'll just flip back. And we can check here as an example for other colleges that are available that have some transferability with UBC. So let's say you attend, let's say Camosun College, and you want to see what is offered at UBC that would be transferable. And then we can just hit go. Did you want to jump in?
Yeah, sure. Oh, sorry. There was 2 different searches, so you can just go down to sending go back to that one. Just hit go, and then you can enter in the information, and then the receiver institutions at the bottom.
Oh, great. There we go. Okay, so we'll see what the UBC Vancouver campus, and we can narrow it down to a subject. So let's say criminal justice, or actually let's go with anthropology, and we can search. So you can see here that there is a listing of anthropology related courses that would count as credit. So what we mean by credit is you receive basically almost like points. So whatever course you finish at the college level, You can see here in the brackets 3, and so you would gain about, UBC would recognize 3 credits from your completion at Camosun College. So there's definitely ways to further and advance your education with UBC, that it's not all just based on your high school requirements, and that we are definitely going to acknowledge all the education that you've completed so far. And so that's just kind of the unique transfer culture that we have at UBC.
If I could just jump in, like Melody, I struggled my way through high school, so I also went to college, and a good portion of our Aboriginal students who have come to UBC have transferred to us from another institution, like a college like Langara, Camosun, or so forth. So it's a really, really good sort of step-by-step approach to getting into a university.
Definitely. Oh, also with the UBC Langara transfer program, there is a huge amount of money for you. There's also, we have some scholarships available. So that's definitely a key thing to consider if you wanted to choose to participate in the Aboriginal transfer program, that there's money available to you to help you along the way, so that we can ensure that you're taken care of. Okay, so the next critical piece that I would love to share with you is how to apply. So this is particularly, I guess it's with UBC as well, and most schools out there. This is where I would definitely love to guide any of your folks who do plan to apply to UBC or yourselves. Part of my role with UBC is to ensure that you have all the right information so that you don't fall through the gaps. I know this is something that I took advantage of when I applied. I definitely had my mother help me along the way too, and she just said, well, look for the Aboriginal services, look for the Aboriginal person at that school, and just call them and see, introduce yourself. And so that was one of the first things that I did was I would go to the school when I was shopping around for the right school for myself, and I would see if they had an Aboriginal office, and I had a look around, and I was seeing all the staff, and there was always that liaison person that was super social, and they took me under their wing and told me, okay, well, here's the next steps, and here's the deadlines, and here's what you need to apply. So there was a really strong mentor that I like to refer to in a lot of conversations that I had with students, and his name was Brian Charles, and he worked for Georgian College, and he was an Anishinaabe man from I think he was from Georgian Bay, Ontario, and he was my doorway to education, and he really infused a lot of good confidence and self-esteem with me, because I was really shy. He taught me to believe that I could definitely succeed. So helping me along the application phase was one of the biggest things ever. I moved out at the age of 19, so I was quite young, and I had a part-time job at Dairy Queen for a lot of years, so this was a pretty big step when you're moving away from home over 6 hours away. And he was definitely he's now like I guess he's my uncle. But yeah, I really like to acknowledge him in a lot of ways for helping me in this process. And I'm definitely reachable by phone and email, and that I would guide you along the way. So yeah, so some of the steps to how to apply is selecting a program that interests you. So again, you can either go in the BC Transfer Guide and see if there's colleges out there. You can check all the additional resources that are available to you to see what matches your interests and your skills. And to ensure that you meet the program requirements, so like I had mentioned before, a lot of our programs have different course requirements and different grades. And applying online and track, all those important deadlines. And again, I can help you with this piece as well, because there's a lot of new language that you're going to learn that universities typically use in the application and admissions world, where you're just like, what is a deferred admissions process, or what is the Aboriginal admissions policy, or what is all this? And you will receive a lot of your letters and your messages all online now. A lot of the schools have decided to go this route because it's quicker to get your decisions out, and it's quicker for you to confirm and secure your spot in the program. So we'll get you familiarized with what is a portal, what does all that stuff mean, and we'll definitely help you through that. And the other critical piece is sending in your required documents. This is something that you could probably work on now, is calling all those places that either you went to school with, or you worked part-time, or you've got a reference from a few of your past employers. Start gathering all these documents, because most of these documents will be as part of your admissions process to UBC. And those are the most, I think those are the most time-consuming stage in the application process for sure. And also those official transcripts. So we do need to see all official transcripts that have that stamp and have that signature, or in that sealed envelope. Those are definitely critical when the admissions team at UBC and other institutions are looking at your academics. And then apply for housing. So this typically happens during the application phase, and you want to apply as soon as you can, as soon as the housing application opens, so that we can get you a spot in the residence there. But like Graham had mentioned, we do give priority to our high school applicants who are applying directly right from high school. And again, myself or someone at the First Nations House of Learning can definitely help you with this stage as well. So we do have what's called a broad-based admission. So some of our programs use what's called non-academic qualifications to make some of the decisions. What I usually encourage some students when I'm out there speaking to different schools and communities is keeping a portfolio of some of the work that you've been doing, or volunteer work outside of your school as well, because we do believe that oneself is holistic, and that it's not just strictly academics. It's what you've been doing outside in your community, or any artwork that you've been doing. And if you wanted to apply to one of the fine arts programs, I definitely encourage you to keep all your projects, or keep them in a nice portfolio, because that will be definitely part of the admissions process with UBC. And we also have some of our arts programs like music. They might invite you for an audition. So they would take in combination of your academics and how well you sing and orchestrate and play an instrument. So these are some of the things that you might want to start to think about with some of those hidden talents that we have, that they might be also included in the evaluation at UBC as well. And we also have different programs like nursing, law, midwifery, pharmacy, and medicine. And again, definitely read through all the information that they do provide you, because there are some little additional pieces to the evaluation for some of the programs. I know with midwifery, because it's a quite unique program, they're looking for that student that works hard within the classroom as well as works hard in the community, because you are going to be using those different skill sets when you're out there in the field working with different nursing stations. And so they just want to ensure that you're prepared for the profession, especially midwifery, because it's such a unique job. It's really helpful to be knowledgeable in all sorts of things, from sociology to humanities to definitely same-sex couples. Just be prepared to work on your feet. So that's definitely that's pretty much why we kind of incorporate the non-academic qualifications as well in the admissions process. And at UBC, we have what's called a personal profile included as an admission requirement. And the personal profile is a way to really shed the light of all the extracurricular activities that you've been doing, and what kinds of things you've learned from those experiences. And it'll definitely help the admissions officer see, okay, this is a pretty well-rounded student. They may not be so strong in their academics, or you may be strong in your academics, but we want to hear that story of all the extra activities that you've been doing along the way, that you've utilized both in classroom and outside the classroom, and applying yourself to the world. So there'll be questions that are quite reflective, meaning like it'll be an opportunity for you to share what you have learned from that experience. So one example that I do like to share is, if you built houses in Haiti, what did you gain from that? not just you built houses in Haiti, but what was the most enriching experience that helped you become a better, stronger person, where you can contribute back to the community with those skills. So that's kind of where I definitely love to share that when I'm on the road speaking with potential applicants of UBC. That's definitely an opportunity to shed the light on those kinds of activities. Did you have anything else to share?
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Melody, in terms of the type of information that you would provide in this type of, either as a personal profile. And when we say personal profile, what it is it's a series of questions. And the questions are basically asking you, situations and where you have, demonstrated some sort of skill or learned something. And I think when we think about personal information or broader-based admissions, there's almost this habit of people just wanting to list everything that they've done. And yeah, sure, we do look for students who have a lot of breadth in terms of experience and depth, but, a list can be nice, but just as Melody is saying, the most important thing you can do is to link that back to how that's prepared you for this particular area of study. How has it changed you as a person, enlightened you or informed you, and how you can basically be a really good nurse, a midwife, a pharmacist, a doctor. And this is the type of information that these programs will be looking for in order to make sure that you're not only a good fit for the program, but also a good fit for that profession. One of the other questions that originally came forward was in terms of reference letters. How do we kind of get support in terms of getting this information to you? The one thing I want to talk about in terms of reference letters is choose the person who's going to write you that letter very carefully and ensure that they can actually speak to some of these experiences and things that you've done in a way that is supporting them. And now I've been at UBC for a number of years now. I've probably read through hundreds of reference letters, and you see some really, really good ones, and then you see some really, really bad ones. So, if you are applying to an academic program and they're asking for, some sort of experiences, with respect to your academic ability, getting your football coach to write you that letter probably isn't a good choice. They can probably speak very, very well to your athletic ability and your commitment to the sport and some of the perhaps transferable skills that you can gain from that in terms of practicing and commitment and all those things. But if that letter is asking for something very different, try to find somebody who can speak to those skill sets for you. Okay? Sometimes they'll ask you to write the letter yourself and then give them the letter for you to sign. That's often a strategy that people use. So, you want to sort of write, I think, a letter that is objective and, truthful, but also sort of presents yourself in a very good way, and then have that conversation with them about that letter. Sometimes letters are what we call blind letters, meaning that you will never see the letter. The schools ask the reference person to send in that letter in a sealed envelope, and it's never revealed to the applicant. So, when you're making these types of choices, making sure that the person, you have a very good relationship with them, they can give a very objective and a good and positive assessment of your abilities is key. Okay? And then when you are putting in those personal letters of intent or those personal profiles, it's very important that you link you ask the question, or the question is asked, how does this prepare you for study in this given area, that you answer that question. Just don't list what you've done.
We do have a question on Adobe Connect. Angela is asking, who evaluates Aboriginal applications? Is there an Aboriginal committee?
Well, at UBC, there is, generally for undergraduate study, there is an Aboriginal admissions policy. So, for example, we evaluate all students the same. So if you apply to UBC and you self-identify as an Aboriginal person, basically what that does, it tells us, okay, well, we're going to evaluate you just like everybody else. However, if you are not admitted on that first evaluation, it gives us a chance to sort of basically take a second look. So our policy is like this big safety net that if a student is admissible on their first evaluation, we can take a second look. And what that happens is that a person from the First Nations House of Learning in Vancouver and a person from Aboriginal Programs and Services in the Okanagan would be sent the application, and then the application would also be sent to somebody in the faculty. So, for example, at UBC Vancouver, that would be somebody in the Longhouse, and if you're applying to arts, it would go to Aboriginal Services and the Faculty of Arts. They would review your application and submit recommendations back to undergraduate admissions. So if undergraduate admissions receives 2 okays, the student's admitted. If one of the person declines and says, no, we don't think that this person is not admissible yet, that they would not be successful, then the application would be unfortunately refused. But I think that's at the point where we would have a conversation with that student to provide them with some advising as to perhaps another school that they may be interested in. But also, I think that it's a point where we'd also talk about college transfer. You can go to college, you can do 1 to 2 years, just as Melody outlined, then transfer to the university. Good question.
And I guess in connection to that as well, we definitely really would like to encourage everyone, your students or yourselves, to definitely self-identify as Aboriginal on their application. So wherever you see that box, definitely please do checkmark that, because that's the most important piece where we can track that person's application or your application to ensure that we point you with that right person. If there's a glitch in your application, or there's something that just doesn't seem right, there's definitely ways that we can revisit the application and give it a second look, or develop the admissions plan like Graham had mentioned too.
It helps us help you at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
Great.
Any other questions?
No, Angela, did that answer your question? Oh, here we go. She does have another one. Do you need proof of ancestry at all for the admission policy, or is it all based on self-identification?
At this time, when we ask students to self-identify to the university, there is no verification. We don't ask people to provide documentation. So we encourage all Aboriginal people to self-identify to us, because just as Melody said, it provides us with the important information by which to track your application and to offer you support and service when needed. Okay. Now, if you're admitted under the Aboriginal admissions policy, there may be points in which we would ask for students to provide some sort of documentation. But UBC, as Nadine will sort of be going into in the next couple of minutes, also has a lot of financial support for students. And there may be times in which we would ask for that. And generally, we leave it up to the student to provide us with some sort of documentation. UBC, we're quite, in terms of self-identification, the question is, are you an Aboriginal person of Canada? And basically what we're asking you is, do you yourself self-identify as an Aboriginal person, like as part of your basic identity as a person? Okay. If you say yes, check mark that box. Okay. But we know that the terms that we often use in terms of like, First Nations or Métis or Inuit can themselves have very sort of different types of meanings. So like, for example, when we say Indian, which is a legal term that's used within the Constitution of Canada, which a lot of these schools do use in their self-identification question, at UBC we mean status and non-status. Okay, so we're not sort of looking along very sort of strict lines of those types of legal identities. We want all people to self-identify who feel that they are Canadian Aboriginal people. And if we do ask for documentation, it could be, if you are a status Indian, it could be your copy of your status card, or it could be a community reference letter.
So that's it from myself. And any other questions? Or?
No, there was just a thank you for that answer.
Oh, good. Welcome. So I'll turn it now over to my colleague here, Nadine, to talk about financials.
And we're going to switch. Okay, so we're really giving you a lot of information. We don't want to overwhelm you. Just so you hear everything at least one time, it's a jumping off point to begin to ask more questions. And so I guess, when we think about the context of college and everything that we've given you so far, it's like, how are we going to pay for everything? So let me take it back a little bit and give you my history. I am a first, and what that means is I am a first-generation college student. Neither of my parents attended college, so I was the second in my family to go after my older sister. So a lot of times when you're first, you really don't know how to navigate the college path or who to talk to. Which is why we're here today, is to help you begin that discussion with your family. Because I really couldn't talk to my parents about college because they hadn't had that experience. So I kind of had to navigate this on my own, and it's part of the reason, again, why I'm here, because I'm very passionate about helping other first go to college or university or technical school. Whatever your choice is, what matters is that you go. Okay, so I also was very lucky because I am from the States. I attended a tribal college, and a tribal college is located on the Fort Belknap Reservation. And it's kind of like a community college, but there's a lot of cultural relevance in the curriculum, and it was a good jumping off point for me to go into university. And of course, like I said, I'm very passionate about helping others first. So again, it's like, how are you going to pay for your college experience? How are you going to pay for university or technical school? So the first thing I'm going to walk you through is, the first thing you need to do is make a spending plan. So what is a spending plan? A spending plan is a list of everything that is going to cost you. It's a list of tuition, how much is it going to cost you to attend university. So the tuition at different post-secondary institutions are going to vary. And at UBC, as you can see, our tuition here is $4,794.30. So those are some big numbers. And it's not just tuition, but there's also fees involved. The advantage of having student fees is that you get reduced costs for the bus, for transportation. You get your medical and dental is covered. There's all kinds of benefits that come with student fees. This is the average cost at UBC for books, and as you can see, books are quite expensive. And then the total cost altogether, again, this is UBC, and the costs are going to vary from post-secondary institution to other institutions. So when you're making a spending plan, it's important to write these costs down. And as you notice, the tool that my colleagues have shown you before, you can go to the website, and when you're doing a search for a post-secondary institution, you'll see that those costs are listed, the tuition costs, the books, and any fees associated with the school. So as I get used to navigating my screens, the other part of that, of developing a spending plan, is deciding if you're going to live on campus or off campus, or if you're going to be living at home, which is off campus, of course. So you have to take those into consideration when you're developing your spending plan as well. And food, of course, everyone has to eat. So are you going to be using a meal plan, or are you going to be living at home where family's going to cook for you? And then, of course, we have a startup, because it's good to come with something in your pocket, and health insurance and personal care. So as you can see, the total, it keeps increasing. The cost to attend UBC is, as you can see, it's climbing, and it's getting to be a little expensive here. So, but keep these in mind because you're developing a spending plan. And also, when you get to the university, of course, you're going to want to have contact with your family, or whatever it is you're doing. It's important that you have a line of communication, and that's going to cost you some. And then, of course, because we want you to be well-rounded, you have to consider recreation or any hobbies that you have, because it's important to keep that balance. You're not just going to be studying for 24/7. You will have a life. It makes you a healthier student, and also clothing, because it happens. And it's important to include that into your budget. So as you can see, there is cost involved there for other expenses. So it's important to write all these down. So as you can see, it's pretty expensive. Grand total $19,810.30. So where is all this money going to come from? Okay, so we do have some tools for you to use. And this is our budget form. If I could get it.
It's not cooperating.
Oh, thank you. This is a year-long budget planning sheet, and I would encourage you to print it off and begin writing in it. Use one for several schools, and this is going to help you. This is a form that you can use to track your cost, to track what, to develop a spending plan. And this is going to be one of the best tools if you haven't done it before, it's good to even practice now, and research some different colleges, and make a list of everything that all the tuition, the difference in tuition, the difference in housing, because they're going to vary again from school to school. So this is a good tool. We're giving you a lot of tools, so I would encourage you to use them.
And what we can do after the presentation, we'll follow up with a little one-page handout with a number of these links and so forth, so we can send that.
Oh, perfect.
Send that out.
We can put that on our website as well. That would be great. And to email out to participants. Okay, so how are you going to pay for all of this? Well, this is where we have to discover where your income is coming from. What is going to contribute to the cost of your education. So first of all, you can have a discussion with your parents to see if they can help provide you with some funds to go to college. Second of all, we have scholarships and awards because they're available, and they're available internally and external awards, meaning they come from the university, and there's also other external scholarships that are out there, and we'll go through those a little bit more. Personal savings, so you saw the figure was $19,000. So if you have part-time work, it's a good time to start putting some of those funds away to help pay for your education. Employment, of course. Some students come to the university and they work through the summer to help pay for their education. Student loans, and we'll go through that a little bit more, and sponsorships, and we'll cover that a little bit more. So for scholarships and awards, UBC has $78 million in support for all students, and we have about $100,000 in entrance scholarships for Aboriginal students. And for some students, that it covers their entire cost of education. Also, we have approximately $650,000 in bursaries, scholarships, fellowships, and awards. So if you're, like my colleague had pointed out, there's a different language that we speak, and so, if you don't know, you can always ask the questions, and we can stop and explain some of the words that we're throwing at you. Bursaries are funds you do not have to repay. Scholarships are funds you do not have to repay. There are two different types of scholarships. There's merit-based, and then there's I'm sorry, what's the other word? I'm sorry, I went blank.
There's merit.
Affiliations. Sorry. Affiliated awards. So it could be affiliated awards are if your parents have worked for a company, or either parent worked for a company, it's possible that a company could offer a scholarship to you because you're affiliated somehow with them. There's fellowships and awards. Awards would be bursaries. It's another name for bursaries. Thank you.
They can also be prizes.
Oh,
For
prizes?
There's like prizes. Sorry, now we're getting really technical. So there's like, you're like the best student in the Faculty of Arts. They give you a prize and there's a little medal and ceremony.
Or even the government will also give out prizes for students. We see students come with passport to education all the time. They're dropping them off. You're awarded in grades 9, 10, and or actually 4 years. 4 years, and that can be up to $1,000. So you never know where they're going to come from.
If I can add in, just for the bursaries, bursaries are basically meant that you demonstrate financial need. And again, there's ample amounts of bursaries that are available online and through UBC as well. And that there's hundreds out there, there's thousands of dollars out there. You know, we're in a time right now with our generation that the government's really encouraging some of our young people to pursue post-secondary. So I know I was I utilized the bursaries a lot when I was in school as well. And it could range from $500 to $2,000, and it's all yours in pocket, and you can spend it however you would like.
Okay, so now we're going to get down to the nitty-gritty. We have the scholarships and awards. The major entrance scholarships for some students can be up to $20,000. That's $5,000 per year, and we do have those for Aboriginal students, which is the Aboriginal awards. And then again, we go back to the affiliated awards. There are awards that we do offer on campus that Aboriginal students can apply for. And then again, we announce those a couple times a year, but look at these for other universities as well, because if we're offering scholarships to attract students, other universities and other programs, other colleges are doing the same thing. So make sure that you speak to someone who's familiar with the financial aid resources with each of those institutions. Sorry. Okay, we do have the general bursary program. Again, UBC is very fortunate. We do have a lot of money in that sense to help our students pay for the cost to attend. And we've had generous donors, and so a lot of this is because people are passionate about higher ed and they want to give back. And so to explain again, to elaborate a little bit more on the bursary is when a student applies for financial aid for student loans, the government will determine how much it's going to cost your education is going to cost for the entire year. So as you saw, we calculated like 19,000. So let's take a figure of 20,000. Let's just say we've determined that it's going to cost you $20,000 to gain higher education for the first year. Well, the government, they can provide you with the maximum amount of money and just say it's only $15,000. While you still have a $5,000 difference, and that $5,000 difference is what we call unmet need. And this is where the general bursary can come in and supplement that, and we can actually cover your $5,000. So you do have everything you need that's going to pay for your education. So again, I know we're throwing a lot of information at you. This is going to give you an opportunity to respond and ask questions. We can carry this conversation on further. And I know at the end we will provide you with all our contact information, so you do have someone to ask questions.
Can I just highlight a couple, I think, really important things that you said, Nadine? You know, I think when we look at the idea of the spending plan, it's really about doing this inventory about how much it's really going to cost, right? And you can do that for each school that perhaps you're thinking about. But I think the one thing about people we know through, the research that's been done for the government, a lot of Aboriginal people like going to smaller colleges, smaller regional universities, And one thing that we're quite concerned about at UBC is students who are just self-selecting out. They're going, wow, UBC is really big, it looks really expensive. But what people seem to, or sometimes don't know, or aren't informed, or forget, is that a big school like UBC or another one of the research universities is perhaps best positioned to support them. Like that bursary program is huge, and a lot of students who have a lot of unmet need, like I remember one story about a single mom who had 3 children. She received literally tens of thousands of dollars of support. So when you're thinking about that making those choices, and people always sort of think about, oh, I'll get an entrance scholarship and that's going to pay for everything. Mm-hmm. Generally, that's not the case. Mm-hmm. Even the Aboriginal awards that we have and the affiliated awards, they're good ways to supplement your overall sort of financial plan, your spending plan. But at the end of the day, it's going to be things such as bursaries that are going to be a big support.
So you take all these into consideration when you are developing your plan, because it helps you, it'll take you to another question, or it'll lead you to another place where you can find more information about paying for your education. So we do, these are some of our major awards that we do have, and the Irving K. Barber, it's very generous. Do you know how much that is?
I think it's about $2,500 per year. And there's a general program, so you got to be. It's through the Victoria Foundation, and essentially what it is support for students who are in the first 2 years of their post-secondary study. So any student anywhere can apply for these awards. These are sort of outside awards that you can just sort of Google, and you can sort of get some more information on them. Inspire is huge as well, and that's a national award.
Inspire is a national award, and it is available too for high school students. So I know they have a deadline. November 1st is the deadline, but there is another one in the spring, right? Is that in June?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the one I'm not sure of. I mean, I should have looked it up, so my apologies. But I do know that they did receive additional funds, additional monies in excess to what they already had. So they do have quite a bit of money. So if you're not going to UBC, if you're going on to somewhere else, I would encourage you to Google Inspire and look at the deadlines and apply, because they're going to be very generous awards this year. And then there's also the New Relationship Trust bursaries and scholarships.
They're another provincial. They're a provincial organization. So there's provincial sort of organizations like the Irving K. Barber Awards, New Relationship Trust, and then there's the nationals like Inspire. There's a lot of awards out there for Aboriginal students, and the kind of the word on the street is a lot of them go unclaimed. I think that story's sort of diminishing, in the last number of years. They're able to give out that money, but this is like free money. And if you are, anybody who's going on to post-secondary should be applying to these.
Duke of Edinburgh is actually becoming really huge with Aboriginal communities as well. They're actively pursuing, the 9s, 10s, 11s, and 12s in the different various levels of programming in the hopes that more Aboriginal students apply for the post-secondary scholarships and things of that nature, and bringing them up and meeting the needs. There's the cultural component, there's the physical component. They'll be coming to the UBC Learning Circle or the UBC Youth Circle in the future.
Excellent.
To talk about that specific Aboriginal program. So that's just really interesting that they've done a lot of promo work for their scholarship program as well. It's based on our culture, our language. There's the language pieces, and there's all these that can count towards the different levels: the silver, the bronze, and the gold levels. Yeah.
All of these awards, like if you get a merit-based award such as that one, it is something that's really good that goes on your resume or your CV. And if you're making an application, maybe you're a high school student now, but in 5 years you're thinking, man, maybe I'll be in medical school. That's just something that goes on that application, right? Like these are all things that contribute to it.
Okay, so we do encourage you all to apply, and just don't think that you're not worthy of them, because you are. And you never know how much you're going to receive. It's time consuming, but it's worth it. Again, we're looking at the income, so you have to talk to your parents and see if they can contribute. If they can contribute to help you pay for college, scholarships and awards. Be aware of the deadlines, because there are deadlines that you should take into consideration when you're applying. Gather information, keep track, make list of the scholarships you've applied to and their deadlines. Look at your personal savings, because if you can contribute, then that helps reduce. It'll just help reduce the cost significantly. Employment, maybe it's a good time to start looking at a part-time job or summer jobs. Again, that will help reduce the cost. And sponsorships. So some bands do provide sponsorship, and it's important that you look into how much they're going to provide, who the contact person is, when those deadlines are, because you will have to apply. And sometimes with some bands, they'll pay for your tuition. Some will pay for the tuition and provide you with a living stipend. Some will provide you with books, pay for a portion of your books, because as you saw at UBC, we had $2,000 set aside for books for 1 year. They'll help reduce that cost. They may not cover 100%, but it will definitely reduce the cost. And some will also provide some funds for you to go home, so twice a year. So that's helpful too. So I would encourage you to look at those sponsorships. And student loans. This is a part. For me as a student, it was I didn't know how to navigate that. And actually, someone, like I said, I was a first. So one of the I remember was a financial aid counselor had called me in, and I didn't know how to apply for student loans. I didn't know how to apply for anything. I didn't have a spending plan. I wasn't sure how I was going to pay for college, but all I knew is that I wanted to go. My sister had gone, and so I wanted to go too. And I wanted to major in math and not in business administration like all my other colleagues, all my other friends. And so when it came to student loans, Student Aid BC is another website. We should have provided that link for you here. I'm sorry. Whoops, going the other way. Here we go. We do have it. Okay, so here's the link to Student Aid BC. So basically, I would encourage you to get your information together, because a lot of it is based upon your income, your family's income. And so get that information together. They do have an online application, and go to Student Aid BC. Read the information they do have on their website. They have an online application, and it's going to ask for information about your family income. They're also going to ask about where you're going to be attending university, or what program you're going to study, because what they're going to do is they have a formula where they take, again, we could go back to the 19,000. They're going to look at what it's going to cost for you to attend university. They're going to, if you're eligible, they're going to assign you an amount that they can give you in student loans to help reduce that cost. And at the same time, they're going to see if you're eligible for additional grants. And grants, again, are like bursaries. You don't have to pay those funds back. So some students who don't want to go in debt, they go through the application process. They apply for student loans. They see what grants they're eligible for. They see what loans they're eligible for. They'll accept the grants, and they don't take the loans, because it's a complex. It's complex when you're thinking about the number of years you're going to be at the university or or paying for college. So really take those into consideration. And I would strongly encourage you to meet with someone in a financial aid offices, or with us at UBC, it's going to be someone like myself, and we can definitely walk you through that. If you don't know where to go, then again, you can also start by speaking with your high school counselor. You can go to your closest university or college and just start having that conversation with someone. And then, of course, again, we'll put our information out there, and you can definitely contact us. So the one thing you should know about student loans is when you do borrow funds, because it is a loan and it's funds you'll have to pay back when you leave or complete university. that the loans are interest-free up until you complete your studies. So say you borrow $2,000. If you were to take out a private line of credit with the bank, there's going to be interest that accumulates on that, and that can become very expensive. If you're applying for student loans and you borrow $2,000, it remains at $2,000 as long as you're enrolled in school and up until you complete your program. So hopefully this is making sense, and I'm not overwhelming you with with a lot of information here.
I just want to add, a lot of students, a lot of Aboriginal students, they have both sponsorship and student loans.
That's true.
So it's just something that is, I think, a fact of life for many students.
Okay, so, whoops.
Yeah, I've never seen that before.
So some important information is that over 50% of UBC students receive student loans. So that's a big number when you consider that we have 55,000 students on campus. So it's something, it's not scary to navigate. It may seem so at first, but we definitely can walk you through it. Okay. So from here, I'll turn it back over to you.
Oh yeah, sure.
Well,
we're coming to the conclusion. Did you want to switch seats?
Yeah.
Coming to the conclusion, or the last section of our presentation. How's our time?
Right up there.
We just want to sort of cover some sort of next steps, like what should you be doing now and how you should sort of be approaching it. Just sort of give you a little bit of guidance in terms of moving forward. And it's kind of just sort of a summary of what we sort of talked today in terms of looking at what's available out there for you, doing some research, sitting down in front of a computer. Well, actually, it's a moment of self-reflection, really. Sitting down, thinking about where you want to go, what you want to do. Perhaps you already have a career objective in mind. Maybe you want to go into health careers. Maybe you want to become a nurse, a doctor, a pharmacist, a midwife, or maybe you're thinking something a little bit different like law. So you already have sort of an idea of in terms of career and the education that you need to attain it. But there's also the whole notion of, okay, well, I want to go to university. I want to do a Bachelor of Arts. Where is that going to lead me, right? And a lot of people are kind of downplaying the value of a university education at this time because, what can you do with a Bachelor of Arts degree? Well, it's one of the degrees that provides you with some of the most general preparation for so many different areas of study. When I kind of told a little bit about my story, I wanted to go into policing, but then I sort of switched, went into archaeology, and then that led me into university affairs, working at a university by which to help other Aboriginal people to go on to school. And, I didn't think an archaeology degree would support me in doing that, but interestingly enough, what I learned in that degree, I often use it almost every single day. So, thinking about career is an excellent idea, particularly if you're going into the trades right now. But if you're thinking more generally, there's a whole bunch of different things you can do with that, right? If you're interested in sustainability, you can do a Bachelor of Forestry. You can do a Bachelor of Science in Conservation Biology. You can do a whole bunch of things. So doing the research is really important. Talking to your parents, telling them about your interests, your aspirations is also key. They're going to be perhaps your biggest supporters, the people that are going to support you day in and day out, along with your high school counselors and teachers. These are going to be people that are going to basically provide you with, guidance when a recruiter isn't there, when an ESP isn't there to sort of answer your questions while you're back in high school. They're going to be a really important support network for you. And then just as what Melody sort of walked you through is okay, well, what are admissions requirements? You go on to Education Planner, you sort of start doing some research, and you can link, and on those pages that you showed you, it'll show you what the admissions requirements are. So you can then sort of look at the different schools that you may be interested in, looking at their admissions requirements, and then making sure that you've either already taken them, or if you're in grade 10, 11, 12, that you incorporate that within your course planning every year, so that when you do get out in grade 12, you're at a point where, hey, I can apply to 3 or 4 different schools. I'm just not applying to one because perhaps I didn't have this one little requirement. You want to create and keep as many options available to you. And part of that is doing the proper planning up front, okay? Making sure you got those course requirements. And just as Nadine sort of discussed, is what is your financial plan? What's your spending plan going to be? Identifying what those costs are, what the educational costs are, what the living costs are. I grew up in Kitimat and in Hazelton, and I wanted to get out of town. I wanted to get out. I want to go see what the world's like. So I went and I moved to Vancouver. I went to college. I did upgrading. I went to Langara, and then I ended up at UBC. But if you are perhaps thinking about going to a local school, you know what? Living at home is going to be a really great way to control those costs, so that at the end of the day, when you do leave post-secondary, and perhaps you're a student who doesn't have access to band funding, that you're taking out student loans and your parents are helping you pay for it, and you're working at the same time, that might be a really important way to just sort of reduce the overall cost of your credential, either if it's college or university. Now, if you are one of those students who is fortunate enough to get to be eligible for band sponsorship, like Nadine said, you got to find out what they'll support you for. Each band has to abide by what they call the national guidelines, but each band has what they call local operating policies, meaning they can create maximums and minimums that are less than those national rules, and they can also have priority lists. So if you have a conversation with your band education coordinator, they can provide you with basically the policies and the responsibilities that both the band have towards you, but also that you must uphold in order to retain that band funding. So like, for example, one of the big ones is a C+ average, right? So if you're above C+, you're golden. If you fall below C+, then there might be some issues, and they might put you on probation, they might withdraw their funding. So understanding all of those rules up front is really important. And also to develop that really important relationship with them. Some of you may be fortunate and be living within your communities, but there's probably students out there, well, we know there's so many students who live in urban places where they may not have those relationships, those day-to-day relationships with their band. So reaching out and connecting early is important. And all that free money. You got to go out, you got to do the research. There is a couple different websites you might want to take a look at. There is Aboriginal Affairs in Northern Development Canada has a website that basically is a database that you can search, and we might take go quickly back. Whoops. Here it is. Sorry, I missed. Oh, here it is. What it is a database that you can search and see what awards are out there. So what we'll do is we'll send this link out after, and you guys can use it. And you can just basically, we'll just search, whoops, not UBC / we'll do just UBC. You search perhaps a school or a program that you're interested in, or maybe even your nation, and then what it's going to do is going to pop up all these different awards that are available. Now, what I've noticed from this database is that it's not a complete one, because we have far more than what's listed here, but it's a really good place to start. It synthesizes or sort of collects all that information into one spot, and you can basically start tracking down the application process and how to apply and all that kind of stuff. Studentawards.com is also another really interesting as well. It does that for all of Canada. I also suggest that you take a look at it. So there's these different sort of tools that we've provided you today, like the Education Planner, the BC Transfer Guide, this Scholarship and Awards database. Geez, that was really hard to get out. But you want to basically go out there and start looking now, so that you have a really good understanding of what can help you finance your education. Now, there's people like us. You can contact us at any question that you have. If it's UBC specific, fantastic. Or if you just have a general question you may need help with in terms of applying to university, for those of you who are attending today, please don't hesitate to send us a message. We'd be more than happy to help you. Every time you think about going to a school like SFU or UBC or UVic or another college, there's likely going to be Aboriginal folks there that can help answer your questions, or find the people at those institutions that can do that for you. And they're really important people to get connected with. And I think once you sort of start thinking about, where you want to go and you got a short list, if you're able to, go and visit the campus, tour the campus. Something that looks good on paper, when you end up there, may not be a place where you see yourself. UBC is a great place, but as you saw from the campus, it can be a really big place. And if you're thinking about a smaller school, like we have an Okanagan campus as well, so that's something also to consider. And it's a much more smaller space, and that might be something that speaks to you more. You can actually say, holy smokes, I can totally see myself here. Or you may other than go like, holy smokes, I don't want to come back here. Doubt that's going to be the case, but you may decide there are preferences there that when you're actually walking around and looking at classrooms, looking at the residences, that may be important for you. And apply to more than one school. I know it can be expensive. UBC, if you have challenges, financial challenges, right from the get-go, we're here to support you. So for example, we can help out with application fees and so forth. But apply to as many schools as you possibly can, because what that ends up doing for you is that you got more cards to play. Okay, so what happens if you're a great, excellent student, you've applied to all these research universities or just universities in general, and you got 4 offers, and you're like, oh, now I get the chance to pick the best one, right? The one that's right for me. What happens? You go like, I just want to go to UVic and that's it. If I don't go to UVic, I'm not going to go. You apply to UVic and you don't get in. What's going to happen? Then you're in a huge scramble, right? Try to find a place where you want to go to school. Or heaven forbid, you decide, you know what, I'm just not going to go to school this year. That's a lost year, right? So apply to as many schools, keep your options open. As a former recruiter, somebody who spends a lot of time with admissions, we're all about deadlines. Okay, so you don't want to lose out on an opportunity just because you missed one particular deadline. On a sheet of paper, once you sort of understand where you want to go to school, which scholarships, bursaries you want to apply to, if you're going to apply to housing, when you have to apply perhaps for a band sponsorship, make a list of all these important dates and arrange them by month and by day, so that you got this plan. You basically stick it on your fridge. And research shows that if you got goals and you write them down and you post them where you see them, you're going to follow through. So post them, put them on a wall, track them as you're going through. Yes, I've met this deadline. Yes, I've met this requirement. This I'm going to do next week. Really, really important. And just as we've sort of been reiterating throughout this presentation, is keep connected, ask questions, talk to your parents, talk to your teachers, your counselors, people at the institutions that can support you. Develop a really big network of people that you can rely on when you're making that application and making your transition to post-secondary, and even more importantly, while you're here. It's very, very important. And do not be afraid to ask for help. One thing that we sort of face at UBC is because we're a very well-respected school, students are generally, very well prepared for studies, meaning they've got very good grades, they've done things inside, outside the classroom that have prepared them to be successful. People don't want to ask for help. There's a sense of, there's embarrassment that I shouldn't, I'm having financial challenges or I'm having academic problems. Don't. Talk to your instructors, talk to your teachers. Make sure that they know exactly where they're at. And then if you have a financial challenge, there's this huge resource, this amazing resource in Nadine and others in like ESPs that are there to help you and help you manage that. So don't be afraid to do that. Okay? I don't know if there's any other questions. Is there any other questions?
No.
We're going to have a quiet group. But, what we wanted to do for you today is just sort of start this conversation for you to sort of maybe widen your thinking a little bit more about, making that jump onto post-secondary and things that you should be thinking about, considering that are important to you, and to sort of, give you a little bit nuggets of info by which to sort of explore these topics further. Okay, I know we've covered a lot of information today. It's not meant to be everything in one go. It's just something to sort of start that conversation for you and the people that are important to you. And please never hesitate to contact us. And I'm sure I speak for all my other colleagues and all the other institutions. Contact them and ask them questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
I like this picture. This is a picture of our graduates from a couple of years ago. So it may seem a long ways off, but this is a good picture to envision, because 1 to 2 to 3 or 4 years goes by really quick, and this will be you one day.
Yes, it will be. That's great. That was a lot of information. It was very informative, because as the presentation was going on, I began thinking, what a great resource for education coordinators, right? And even those youth who are kind of left because education coordinators are so busy, to point them in this direction of this presentation. Because I began thinking, I know, one of the young ladies from my community that I encouraged to attend the session today, because she is planning on making application to the midwifery program. I'm definitely going to share today's session with her, because she did have some of these questions, right? What about the city? What about the, living on campus? What about this? What about that? And those questions did surface during the midwifery presentation, and that this presentation will tie in together with her application, because she's going to do the doula program at New West as a stepping stone into the midwifery program. So she's thinking, 2 years down the road, what am I going to do? I'll be doing this and all the other steps that go together. So I already kind of thought, what are my next steps with this presentation? Because it was so helpful. And much like you, that we try and give exposure to other programs too. Yes, we're UBC Learning Circle, but at the same time supporting our youth and our community members to get back into school and further their education. Because now, with that being said, we're in partnership with Vancouver Community College and a program called Gateways to Health Careers, which we always know when you start, much like you, Graham, that you start a process and think, okay, this is what I'm going to focus on. But later in life, much like you, my background is actually business administration. So you end up in all these different areas in your career where it actually takes you. Yes, that might be your education, but this is where I've ended up. And also, we have industry training, I think it's Industry Training Canada, coming to talk about more promo and trying to recruit more Aboriginals into the trades programs. What's out there in, I think
lots of great opportunities.
Right, in the 15 different colleges and universities that they're affiliated with, and they're really recruiting in that area as well. So they will be coming on a future youth UBC Learning Circle. And in addition to that, you mentioned Candace in the beginning of your presentation.
Oh, yeah.
She is also coming to
nice.
do a
Great.
UBC Learning Circle to talk about, language and retention. And we're going to actually have some young youth who actually went through different immersion programs and how it's affected their lives and speaking the language. So it's really exciting that we're all making these connections. And so I want to thank all three of you for coming today to do the presentation. And I know, like I say, I'm going to actively really promote this session, because it has personally helped me a lot, because I thought in the past, if I had more support, things could have been differently. And, you're almost afraid, and I've said this in past youth circles, that you're almost afraid to be the one that asks the question, because, our parents, like you had mentioned, Nadine, we're that first generation or the second sibling, in our family that's gone to post-secondary, and we didn't know where to ask the question. We didn't want to be looking like we didn't know what we were doing. And in fact, we didn't, so it's really nice to see the supports that have been put into place, and that this is a start to something great, right? Like, ask the questions, get out there, and positions have been created to support you in the process of post-secondary. So it's just so great to see, such organizations as the UBC and UBC Okanagan. Melody, you do some part-time work here, and UBCO up in Kelowna. So the supports are put in place to help you succeed and think about post-secondary, your career and your career choices. So with that being said, we are at lunchtime already. I will mention that a couple of future UBC Learning Circle sessions. Next week, we have the Witness Blanket Project with Carrie Newman. He is the actual person putting this national project together. It kind of stems from the Truth and Reconciliation week that we had here in the city in September. So he will be coming here to the UBC Learning Circle to talk about that project. November 13th, we have Youth Co's Aboriginal Youth Program doing a presentation on contraception. November 20th, I think it's our third in a series of health and nutrition. It's healthy eating for chronic disease prevention and management. November 21st, we have in honoring our babies Safe Sleep Toolkit with the Provincial Health Service Authority. November 26th, we have trauma-informed practice with working with Indigenous children and youth. We have Natalie Clark. November 28th, we are carrying on our Indian Residential School Survivor Series, Grief and Loss with the Balanced Will. Our presenter will be from Williams Lake, Shirley David. December 3rd, we have Traditional Foods with Fiona Devereaux. She is First Nations Health Authority. As always, we welcome your feedback and your input. If you would like to see a particular presenter or a particular project brought to the Youth Circle or UBC Learning Circle, please send Catherine or myself an email and we will follow up. We will gladly follow up. If you have any feedback about any of our past presentations or today's session, please send us an email as well. So thank you very much and have a good day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.